person's finished with the service, let's say a regular Jew brought a peace offering or a todah to the actual courtyard of the temple. So he's leaving the temple courtyard. What should he do? And he does not leave and have his back to the temple. Instead, he sort of walks a little bit backwards or walks sideways so as not to turn his face, not to show his back to the temple as he leaves. But what does it say here? I underlined here, Minha Azara, the temple courtyard. It's not talking about leaving the temple mount. The Anshe Mishmar, those are the Kohanim who are on duty. Anshe Ma'amad is the Jews who are on duty. You guys remember what the Ma'amad is? Chazal say, we read about this soon in the Rambam also. You can't have, who works in the temple? Kohanim and Leviim. Then Chazal realized it cannot be that a man would send his sacrifice to the temple and his representative isn't there. He himself isn't there. So too, because the Korban Tamid is on behalf of the entire Jewish people, the Jewish people need representatives in the temple. Israelite representatives. They're called the Ma'amadot. Select group of people who are there to attend the temple service as observers, and they're also supposed to be offering prayers and fasting as the sacrifices are offered. Those are the Ma'amadot. What? No, they're not. The wood bringers were very specific families. Okay, only like a few that's listed in the Mishnah, and that was it. These regular people were just representatives of the people. And the Levim, when they left their platform, what were the Levim doing on the platform? They were singing. Kach hayu yotzim min hamikdash. That's how they would leave the mikdash. Kemoshe posea achar tefillah lachrav kol ze lira min mikdash. Like you leave your when you're done praying, how do you walk? 3 steps backward. Doesn't it mean every single step you take backwards? So technically speaking, it's a good thing when you're leaving the mikdash. Remember, all Har Bayit is mikdash, but it's not like, oh, you can't actually walk forwards out of the Temple Mount when we actually leave. Once you took a few steps backwards and you were on sideways, good enough. It's not really normal to walk entirely backwards. You could fall down. That's not respectful. It just becomes silly. Chas v'shalom, though, something that should not be done is that people leave the Kotel like this. The Kotel Plaza is a synagogue, so it has to be treated with reverence of a synagogue. As we said last week, the Kotel Plaza is meant to be basically the parking lot of the temple. And as unfortunately happened, the Kotel Plaza has replaced the temple in the eyes of many Jews. They treat it like their temple, and then they treat the Kotel like it's some sort of it is the edge of the holy place in Judaism, and therefore when they leave the Kotel Plaza, they do this whole walk backwards thing, so not to turn their back on the Kotel. It's wrong to do such a thing because that's not what the halacha asks for. But more than that, it's an insult to the actual temple. It was Lama Davar Domeh. What happened? Leon and Shmuel got to see firsthand on Shabbos. Someone made a very fancy Haftarah book for the shul. Now, these Sephardic Sefer Torahs, what is it? It's just the Sefer Torah. The Ashkenazic or Sephardic Sefer Torah doesn't really matter if you put a mantle on it or you put a case around it. Okay, so the Sefer Torah cases are looking very fancy now. You're a photographer, but you're not here, so someone else will have to take the pictures, I guess. The Sefer Torah comes in a case. It's a very fancy case. So this fellow has the Haftarah book. He wrote the Haftarot on cloth. Then he wrote, he put in the dots and he put instructions. It's written on cloth, but it's not even a whole book of the Bible. Remember, just pieces of certain Nevi'im, and not even that many. So it's just the Haftarot. So technically speaking, this printed Koran Bible has more sanctity than a Haftarah book. But what did he do? He put it in a case that looks like a Sefer Torah case. So when it comes time to read the Haftarah, they take it out of the Aron, and this thing looks like a Sefer Torah. For a Sefer Torah, what do you do when it's being moved around? You have to stand up for a Sefer Torah, correct? That's an obligation. So what was happening the first few months after this fellow donated this new Haftarah book was people were getting up. They open up the Aron, they take this Haftarah book to the table, and I had to tell people, sit down. Why? Because if you show the respect of a Torah, okay, photos on Har Bayit, you could take photos on Har Bayit, but it's getting a little bit out of hand, perhaps. There's someone who documents things. It's good to do that. So yes, you need to take pictures for documentation. God knows the Arabs are doing that. My daughters told me that they were taking a lot of pictures of me. Okay, who knows? It's kind of it's threatening. When the wrong people are taking pictures of you, you don't want that. But The problem was I saw people taking selfies and things like that, or just because they're celebrities are going hard by. It's just like, oh, look at me, I'm with so and so, but that's not exactly what we do. Even at Kotel Plaza, it's a little bit, I get what's the word here? It's improper. So back to this, treating the Kotel Plaza with the reverence, or treating the Kotel with the reverence of the temple, is not only just wrong intellectually, it's an insult to the temple. It's like Avodah Zarah. One aspect of Avodah Zarah is treating this idol, or even the stars and the moon. They're great, they're amazing things. The sun, but you're giving it God's reverence. You're treating it with the reverence you should be treating God himself. That's an insult.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.